Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. Today is Tuesday, which means it's Tag Tuesday, and I am here with a tag that I was tagged in way back in January. And somehow in my planning, the fact that I was tagged in this got lost, so I am going to make up for it now. Today I am going to do the last 10 books tag. The original tag was originally from Marc Nash, and I think it's a tag that is a couple of years old. So maybe it will now have a new run. It's also one of those tags that you could do over again because your answers will probably change to these questions. I was tagged by Rainier from Rainier Books. And my apologies to Rainier for taking so long to finally do this tag, but thank you for your patience and for tagging me. Rainier is a booktuber living in Sweden, and he always introduces me to books that I would never have heard of otherwise. And I will leave a link to both Marc and Rainier's channel in the description box below. So you can definitely go and check their videos of this tag out. There are 10 questions in this tag, so let's get started. The first one is the last book you didn't finish. So for this question, I am going with a book that I've had for a very long time. It's The Assassin's Cloak, the anthology of the world's greatest diarists. This book was recommended to me by Margaret Atwood, probably in the mid-1990s. It is massive. I have attempted to read it twice, and the second time I did get further along, and I actually really like the book. It's broken down by each day of the year, and it has entries on that day by several writers, thinkers. You can kind of see what it looks like. Artists, there's government leaders, just all kinds of people. Some of the entries are really funny, some of them are sad, some of them are very entertaining. So maybe next year I will approach the book differently and actually read the entire thing. Number 2 is the last book that you reread. So for me, that would be Anne of Green Gables. You probably already know that this is one of my favorite all-time classics. And I am not a big rereader, but Anne of Green Gables is the only book that I have read 3 to 4 times. Number 3 is the last book that you bought. And I just recently picked up The Apollo Murders by Chris Hadfield. And Chris Hadfield is a Canadian astronaut, now retired, and he's someone that I really admire. I think he's really brought space to people, and especially young people, in ways that no one has before. So this novel was published last month, I think, and it is a thriller that obviously takes place in space, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Number 4 is the last book you said you read but didn't. Do people do that? I don't really know why. I would say I read a book when I didn't, so I don't really have anything for that. Number 5 is the last book you wrote in the margins of. Yeah, that doesn't happen. Maybe when I was in university, I might have written notes, but I don't ever recall doing that. I don't usually write in my books. Number 6 is the last book you had signed. So The Apollo Murders is actually flat signed, which means that there's no inscription, it's just the author's name. And then number 7 is the last book that you lost. And I don't know that I've ever lost a book, unless you count books that I've loaned out and that book was never returned. I stopped loaning books quite some time ago because of this. So now if I were to loan a book, I kind of resign myself that I may never and probably will never get it back. So for the most part, I will just give the book away. I won't name the book, but the one that this happened probably about 15 years ago was that someone asked to borrow a book, and I said that I hadn't read the book yet, so that it was important that I receive the book back. And they said, well, yeah, that's why I said borrow. And so I lent the book to them, and I've never seen that book again. And I'm pretty sure that, I had one or two other conversations with that person about it afterwards. But I think that was one of the last times that I lent a book to anyone, with maybe a couple of exceptions. So number 8 is the last book you had to replace. So for me, this book would be The Samurai's Garden by Gail Tsukiyama. So just before we moved, this book had water damage and I had to replace it, and I still have to read it. Number 9 is the last book you had an argument over. So I don't think I've ever argued about a book. The book that I've had a few more intense conversations about would be Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers. It's not a book that I got along with very well at all. And number 10 is the last book that you couldn't get hold of. So I don't have one in particular, but when I was putting together the Margaret Atwood series, Mondays with Margaret, there are a few of her books that are either out of print, or they're just hard to find, or they were thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars, and so they remained in the bookstore. So that is the 10 questions for this tag. Thanks again to Rainier for tagging me. Since this tag is an older tag, if you haven't done the tag, or if you would like to do the tag again, and maybe update it, then consider yourself tagged, and maybe especially for those of you who are newer to BookTube this year, I tag you. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.